It's another day, so you know what that means. We expect another big-time commitment for Alabama.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, HSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson, that's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We'll talk about FanDuel in just a little bit. I want to thank you every day for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen every single day. You guys are the best, as I always say. So, Jimmy, it's Sunday, June 29th. And, today should be another big day for Alabama.
Yeah, hopefully it might be the biggest. Frankly, I mean, I can't stress enough what I feel about Xavier Griffin as a prospect. He could end up, assuming he chooses Alabama, and that's still a big if as we record this. He's committing at 1:45 today, and this is being recorded Sunday morning. Assuming he commits to Alabama, I think he would be the best, very possibly the best player Alabama gets in the whole cycle. And I realize there's potentially some really good ones like C.D. Morgan. You already got E.J. Kroll. Several others are really, really good. Jordan Edmonds is fantastic. And even Jamari Matthews is really good. But I think Xavier Griffin could prove to be the best. When I watch his huddle, I really wish he could be two people. That's how good he is, because I want to play him on the edge, because this guy's speed off the edge is ridiculous. He gets to the quarterback crazy fast. Just one of these pass rushers where the quarterback has no chance. He's just so fast. He's also seems to be very smart about choosing his pass to the quarterback. He doesn't just line up outside and go. He picks his path. He is physical, but as a speed pass rusher, he's just not going to have many peers out there. On the other hand, when you watch his huddle, you're like, why would you ever move him from off-ball linebacker? As an inside linebacker, he's also supremely athletic. Dominates the game sideline to sideline. He can drop. He can play forward. He can blitz. He would be a do-it-all inside linebacker. Because of this, it's kind of hard to find an Alabama comp. I know a lot of people settle on Jahad Campbell. I think that's really good, because Jahad Campbell had inside and outside traits. Anybody you comp him to has to be an inside-outside guy. Jahad Campbell, Dante Hightower, two names that come to mind. He's not as big as Dante Hightower, although I think he may end up as big as Jahad Campbell. I think a comp no one says that I sort of like, that also has inside-outside ability, is Rashaan Evans. And I think there's a lot of Rashaan Evans in him too. Boy, notice who we're comparing him to, some big-time dudes.
Yeah, first of all, for those who don't remember, Dante Hightower had the best avatar for his recruiting picture. I remember that. It was like a kind of a fur-looking coat that was kind of hanging over his shoulder, and he looked like, yeah, I'm kind of wearing a fur coat. What are you going to do about it? That's what I always remember that about Dante Hightower. I was like, I want to sign him right there. That's the guy I want to sign.
Boy, he was good.
Of course, yeah, he was pretty good. But Xavier Griffin is, I was going to say that. I thought I was going to have a shocking take, honestly. I was going to let you do your thing. Then I was going to say, Jimmy, is it too far-fetched for me to think this is the best commitment we have on the list? Now, I don't know that I'd go so far as to say he will be our best commit. I think he could be. But I think when all said and done, I think Sedarian will be our best commit. I believe that. Now, some others may not be as high on him. I get it. I've just seen him play a few times. I hope to get to see him play a lot this year. As I've mentioned several times, the two founders of the AHSA Radio Network, they are the color and play-by-play guys for Benjamin Russell. So they got to call, of course, Malcolm Simmons for a few years, and then they've been calling Sedarian Morgan. They've been blessed to be able to see some pretty serious talent. There was a quarterback named Tyree Gray a few years ago. That was great. But I'm not speaking for them. They haven't told me this, so I need to ask them. I think Sedarian is the best player they've seen. Now they've also called Ryan Williams and stuff like that. So I mean, Ryan Williams would certainly be way up there.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of just the best player they've seen from Benjamin Russell, certainly. Even though you've had some other good players. But I think if Sedarian commits, I think he could be the best. Griffin number 2. Now, Crowell's got to be up there somewhere too.
He does.
And on top of that, what if Jarrell Edwards?
He would be up there, and Jordan Edmonds, who's already committed. Jordan Edmonds may end up being a 5-star plus. I don't know that Griffin will be ranked the highest. I mean, CD could be ranked higher, and Jordan Edmonds, because of positional value, could be ranked higher. And I love CD Moore. I'm certainly not any negatives there. As a matter of fact, I'm closer and closer to say I don't think Morgan is Julio, but I think you can compare him to Julio with a straight face. I mean, it's not crazy. For instance, how about this? Not even a coincidence, because I do think Julio is a nice comp for Sedarian Morgan. Sedarian Morgan's listed on the On3, prospect page, listed at 6'4", 220. When you go back to 2008 and pull up Julio Jones' prospect page, 6'4", 220. I mean,
wow,
identically sized at the same age. I also think CD has Julio's ability to catch the ball in traffic. His ability to win 50-50 balls is crazy. It's never 50-50 in high school football with him on the field. He's a savant at the 50-50 ball, the contested catch. CD Morgan is a wizard. Where I wouldn't say it's a question mark, or where I have my doubts. In terms of comparing him to Julio, I don't see the take a slant and house it from 90 yards like Julio did. Now he can, but like Julio did, where Julio kind of threw in the, oh yeah, I'm also a 4-3 type guy. That's where I have questions about CD in terms of the Julio comp. But I do think CD Morgan, Xavier Griffin, Jordan Edmonds, Kroll, Jira Edwards. I mean, gosh, the top of this class is absolutely ridiculous if it happens. Now, Zay, by the way, it goes by Zay. That's going to be confusing. We got Zay Horton. We got Zay Hall commitment on Friday, and Xavier Griffin, I think he goes by Zay. When he commits at 145, if he commits to Alabama, wow. Wow is how you can say what the job Courtney Morgan and his staff are doing. And of course, Kalen DeBoer sitting at the top of the org chart, but really Courtney Morgan kind of runs recruiting for Alabama. He's just A+ at the job.
By the way, for those who don't know, this time last year on June 27th, Zay Griffin committed to USC, and he was committed for almost a full calendar year until May. And I think May 14th is when I saw he decommitted. So, but even in that entire time, everybody kept saying, everybody that probably wasn't USC people, he ain't going to USC.
Yeah, you were saying that. I mean, early on. I mean, we talked about it on this show. You said way back that watch him decommit from USC did. And then you've also said, and I agree, USC is going to have other decommitments. This is just sort of, I think it comes from either pressuring or taking these early commitments. I mean, a player of his caliber should never have committed anywhere, not even to Alabama, nowhere that early. I mean, see what's out there and introduce yourself to the recruiting world and the recruiting industry. Don't wait too late making a decision, but also don't make it too early.
Yeah, it's tough to pick out when you should commit, but I can say this: if you commit to USC anytime a day before signing day, I'm going to say your commitment is sketchy. Like you're always already wavering. But
I mean, he committed a full 18 months before he could sign. That's a lot for a kid that ended up. Now, I don't know how he thought he might end up in the rankings kind of process, and we'll see. 24/7. I prefer On3's rankings. I do, but 24/7 has some guys in it. They consider him a top 10 player. I think he's the number 8 player overall in the whole class with 24/7.
Yeah, I do know that they like him the most. Mm-hmm. Rivals has him as like number 76, which is just stupid low. But now
he's an On3 industry 5-star. Meaning he's a top 32 in the On3 industry, which is the composite type ranking. And a 5-star with 24/7.
Okay, so one more quick one. We also, Alabama, that is, got an RPM, crystal ball, whatever you want to call it, for Nolan Wilson to commit to Bama on July 4th.
Bone.
So
I saw Andrew Bone did that. I'm
Bone
sure
and Watts, right?
Yeah, Bone and Watts. Yeah. They're a tandem. Big. I mean, it would be huge. I mean, I like Nolan Wilson for a whole bunch of reasons, but let's just start with the fact he's a top 100 national prospect who's a defensive lineman. And for all of the screaming out there that takes place over that, here's a top 100, maybe, top 2 player in Mississippi. And he's liked Alabama and Freddie Roach from the jump. I mean, from the jump, he's like, that's kind of who I want to play for. And again, Bone and Watts have RPM'd him. I think Wiltfong has as well. Steve Wiltfong has bombed him to Alabama. July 4th, I think, is Nolan Wilson's commitment date. Alabama recruiting him as a bandit, but store this in the back of y'all's minds. I think he's going to end up a big kid like J.J. Finch and be an interior player. That's what I think long term. Probably spends his freshman year playing bandit, and that's fine. You know that as long as you're playing. Freddie Roach coaches both positions. You're in the group every day. When you're a bandit, just think about this real quickly. When you're a bandit and you're being coached by Freddie, who also coaches the defensive tackles and the nose guards, you're in every meeting. You hear Freddie Roach coaching the nose guard and the defensive tackle every day. That's what you hear. You're lined up next to them. You see them. The transition to another spot is, I don't want to use the word easy, but it's kind of like switching from shortstop to second base. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's shortstop to second base. Sure, different position, different angle. You're kind of matched up with bigger dudes. I'm not downplaying it. I'm just saying it's not like learning Chinese and, I got to move over here and learn Greek. No, you've been watching that position being coached every day since you've been here.
I still can't even say Euro right. So, I mean,
I'm not sure. I know I'm old. I have to Google that every time I go to one of those places. I Google it before I walk because I'm like, okay, I've forgotten how to pronounce it again.
Well, I say Euro, and I feel like they always look at me and just say gyro.
Just say gyro. Everyone else says gyro because we're from the South. So everyone is saying gyro. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to say it right, though, but I got to Google it every time because I can't remember it.
I'm down here at Orange Beach, and I go to City Donut. It's like our place. It's awesome. And they moved a little bit, but they have these glazed everything, but glazed croissants. And I told them I feel so weird every time I go in there. I'm like, I would like a glazed croissant. And like,
do you say croissant?
I'm like, who am I?
Do you say croissant? You say croissant?
Well, I'm deprogramming myself from it. But I'm saying, I was like, who am I to do that? What kind of jackass goes in there and goes, do you have a glazed croissant? Like, what a jerk.
If I worked there, I would say, coming right up, Gerard Depardieu.
I have the nose for it. That's about it. All right, let's talk a little FanDuel because we all love FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the greens, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You've already been following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions all the time. That means fun ways to bet. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. I don't know why it made me think of this story, but my mom she had a friend that like always one-upped her. Like, and she
the
just couldn't stand it. Yeah, the one-uppers.
I know one-uppers.
But mom said she finally, thought she got her, because she always did the croissant thing or, Cafe du Monde, she'd do stuff like that. Mom was like, shut up. And, but mom said, yeah, we went to Europe the other day and we did this, and this. And she goes, and the lady finally looked at her and goes, well, I've been to Europe on the Concorde. And like she said it like that. And mom said, I just wanted to punch her right in the face. Wow. Like, why even say it like that? Why just say the Concorde? We'd know. You don't have to like roll off the tongue with it. But
anyway, the one-uppers, they can always one-up you. I think they make stuff up 90% of the time. Like a big moment from, I met Hank Aaron once. That's me one up. I met Hank Aaron once at an airport. It's no big deal. But
the Hank
Aaron, and you talk to a one-upper and they'll go like, oh yeah, me and Hank were buddies. Yeah, I had beer with him the other day.
Look, I got his phone right.
Yeah. Look right here, Hank Aaron.
By the way, I've told this before too. We're going to get into this next segment, I swear to God. But I've told this before. When my brother was like 8 and I was about 13, we ran into Evander Holyfield at the Hartsfield International Airport in the gift shop.
Moly. In the gift shop. Holy moly.
Like he was buying a magazine. And
he didn't have security with him because why would the heavyweight champion of the world ever need security?
So he was walking around and my brother goes, "Oh my God, you're Evander Holyfield." And he goes, I certainly am. Couldn't have been any nicer. And he said, my brother said, "Can I get your autograph?" And Evander said, "Sure, kid." He really said it just like that. And I'm sitting there just in awe. And he goes, like Evander had a pen on him. So he pulled out a pen and he goes, "Well, you got any paper?" And Austin goes, "Just sign my shirt." And Evander looked at him and goes, "I'm not ruining your shirt, boy." And
I'm not ruining your shirt.
That's the opposite of a one-up. It's a one down. Anyway, I listened to this on my way to City Donut today here at Orange Beach. It's sort of yapping season, as some of y'all know by listening to us occasionally. And there was a debate on the SiriusXM College channel. And so there were two guys, I don't even know their names, but they were talking about how, last year Ohio State, they lost to Michigan, but in the end they get the last laugh. Don't you think they're happy about that? And the other host goes, I'm gonna have a hot take. I bet this year Ohio State would rather beat Michigan than win the national championship. And I was like, okay, that is a hot take. That's not right. Yeah. But I understand where he's coming from. Let me tell you why. Because see, that is, you and I have been saying this forever. This is what scares me about the ever expanding universe of college football playoffs. That now that used to be so devastating to lose to Auburn, to lose to Tennessee, to lose to LSU for us. I mean, it used to crush my soul. Now, I got used to it during the era of the mics, but I'm saying, like, when I remember being young, and Bobby Humphrey going over the top in Legion Field and fumbling against LSU in '86, I think it was, right. If they had replay, it would have been a score, but they didn't have replay, so it wasn't a score, and LSU goes on to win. And I remember being so crushed by that. I remember, some crushing defeats to Auburn. I was just crestfallen, and you know how much I don't like saying that word. But I'm just, what I'm saying is, and I think this was his point, because he sort of got around to saying, he said, that's what worries me, is like we're losing the essence of college football. Like everything's so passionate. Well, it doesn't have to be as passionate anymore.
So playoff centric instead of those rivals. It's playoff centric.
Yeah. And I get it. And I'm on board with, hey, look, if I could lose to Auburn every year and win the national championship every year, sign me up. Sign me up. But I wish it wasn't like that.
Yeah, well, Alabama did in 2017, lost to Auburn, but won the national championship. Yeah. And I'm not trading those two.
Not trading at all.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, and you're right. And Nick Saban said this was coming a long time ago when he said, "Hey, when we start doing this, only thing anybody's ever going to care about is the playoff, and they're going to forget about everything else." And I'm not sure that's in college football's best interest. And that has definitely proven true. To Luke's point, I'll just say this reminds me of a quote. I don't quote him too much, but I think his Uncle Si on Duck Dynasty. I heard Uncle Si say, I've been poor and I've been rich. Rich is better.
Yeah.
I've beaten Auburn. I've won the national championship. Winning the national championship's better.
That's good. Okay. Fair enough. But I think, and I get where he's coming from. And on the surface, it sounds so dumb, but I get where he's coming from, because I think, was that Ohio State's fourth straight loss to Michigan or just third?
I think so. I do think Ohio State is in a very rare position where they want to beat Michigan much as they want to win a national championship, because they're just, I mean, they spent $20 million plus last year to beat Michigan. They just happened to win the national championship along the way and lose to Michigan again. But they want to beat Michigan badly. And I said we won the national championship in 2017. I quickly remember, though, losing to Auburn. I mean, that's one of the things we'll take with us from that season. It's not a but. We won the national championship, but we lost to Auburn. No buts, no caveats. Alabama was the national champions. Losing to Auburn didn't really matter on the way to the national championship, but losing to Auburn stinks. Doesn't matter that one. Losing to Auburn stinks, period, any year that it happens, because that's one of the goals of the season before the season starts, and the kids write down their goals. One of them is to win all of the rivalry games. Alabama is sort of burdened with 3. Not everybody else has that.
And I guess my last thought about it was, when I finally was coming back up to our condo, I was thinking, I think I get where that guy's coming from, but I think that's an antiquated way of thinking that's going to change, because he kept saying, every time I see an Ohio State guy, they're like, yeah, we got to beat Michigan this year. He said they never say we got to win the national championship
again.
He said we got to beat Michigan this year. And I get it. I get where all that's coming from, but I think that's going away. And I think he's like me. Okay, it all makes sense, and it's the natural progression of things, but it's sad because that's what college football was so unique like that. I mean, if Kentucky and Louisville play a rivalry game in basketball, we don't really, and it is a rivalry game. It's very historically a rivalry game. It doesn't matter. Nobody really gives a rip.
Except for Kentucky and Louisville fans, and it's not even that, because they care far more about what happens in the postseason, especially those two programs who traditionally have strong postseasons. Alabama won 2 of 3 rivalry games last year. Let's not forget that. In the midst of what was sort of a frustrating season for Alabama fans, you did have the win over Auburn and the win over LSU, but you lose to Tennessee. Hey, this fall, if someone says, Jimmy, you lose to Tennessee, but you win the national championship, okay, take it.
Yeah, that is a little different, though. I because the Auburn rivalry is the biggest one to me. I know some people don't look at it that way.
Yeah, I agree.
Roster countdown time, Jimmy. You got 2 names that, like, in my head, I was thinking we've already done, because I didn't think they'd be up this high. But then as soon as I saw them, and as soon as I had that thought, it was like, no, I think those are appropriately ranked.
Well, we have Cole Adams, the 33rd best player on the team, and some people will think automatically, they'll look at that and go, wait, it's too high. Other people better. Well, consider this. Cole has started games. He's played with the ones. He was the punt returner until he got hurt. Now probably Ryan's going to do that this fall, one would think. But DeBoer likes to play more than one punt returner, by the way. That's a unique thing he does that we probably don't talk about enough. But Cole, starting punt returner, plays with the ones. Of course he's going to play with the ones again. He's not going to lose his spot because he got hurt and kind of misses the second half of last season. But Cole's a really good player. Also throw in the facts, not just the DeBoer staff. We told y'all on the show over a year ago, 2 years ago, the Saban staff loved Cole Adams. They thought of Cole, almost became the punt returner his true freshman season, though the decision was made to redshirt him and go with someone else. They like Cole. He's dependable. For a guy who's Mr. Dependable, and I think they kind of call him that. They call him, he's got some sort of nickname on the practice field, like Mr. Dependable or Mr. Consistent, something like that. For a guy that's got kind of carries that nickname,
by the way.
It is. It takes too long. The greatest nicknames have like 2 syllables at the most, or it's a play on your name. But Cole is shockingly athletic for a Mr. Dependable type player. So Cole's going to be in the first team rotation. And if you're in the first team rotation, being ranked somewhere around the 33rd best player on the roster makes a lot of sense. Gino Vandermark is who we have at 32. And notice I don't have him top 22, which means I'm not sure he's going to start. He's a major contender to start at left guard. He's in a really good, one of the few great camp battles will be Cam Dewberry versus Gino Vandermark for left guard. That's one of the few great position battles I think we'll see this fall. I'm going to go today because my job here is to kind of guess how things will turn out. And sometimes it's right and sometimes it's not. But right now I'm going to say Dewberry wins the job. That still makes Vandermark a critical player on this team because he's the top interior line guy off the bench. If either guard gets hurt, if the center gets hurt, then it's Gino. So last year he was in that role, Luke, and look at all the snaps he played because Jaden Roberts was hurt the whole year. Gino ended up splitting snaps. I think he even started one game. He had to split snaps with Jaden Roberts all year because Jaden was hurt. Gino did a good job. Was he awesome? Was he all SEC? Is he headed for day 2 of the NFL draft? No. Good. Off the bench, subbing for an all-star type player like Jaden Roberts. I thought Gino did good. Reminds me a little bit of Mike Johnson from previous Alabama's kind of a Mike Johnson type guy. And I think Gino is a good player. That's why we have him as the 32nd best player on the roster, capable of starting and doing a good job. Ideal, I think, as a sixth guy off the bench on the offensive line. So two really solid players that we will definitely see this fall with the ones at times, Gino Vandermark and Cole Adams.
Have we ever had another Gino on the team? One didn't pop out to me.
Seems like so, but there's a lot of players named Gino. I mean, there's a Gino starting quarterback in the NFL. Oh yeah. What was didn't we have a
defensive back?
Yeah, defensive back from Atlanta. Also Geno Smith.
Oh yeah, and he transferred to Georgia.
I think he might have.
Yeah.
He was a big time prospect and was good, but I don't think he ever was.
I think, is that the one that transferred to Georgia and then had an interception return for a touchdown against Auburn to beat them in Kirby's first year when they won 13-7 in Athens?
That stuff sounds vaguely familiar, but considering I have to Google every time I order a gyro or a hero, I'm not sure I'm going to have a recall that specific as you on that.
I think it was him, but I mean, I know you can't type fast enough, and I'm having to move the screen way back because, I'm not going to do it.
I'll look it up. But yeah, we did recruit and sign a Geno Smith, who was a defensive back under Saban. I'm going to go back to I'm going to guess that would have been class of around 2013.
And see, I think he transferred to Georgia
from there. He's
Kirby Smart's first year.
That'd have been prior, but well prior to the portal.
Yeah,
he might have grad transferred.
He might have been a grad transfer. I don't remember because it was a while back. I mean, it was it had to be 2016. That was Kirby's first year, right?
Well, if he was class of 2013 in Alabama, that makes about sense.
That makes right. Well, because in 17, remember, I think that he went to the national championship game in his second season. Wow. I think that's right.
Okay.
I know too much Georgia history for my own liking. I'm not liking this. All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We will be back at some point today. I've got to go get my daughter from the Pensacola airport around the time Xavier Griffin commits. But if I can stop somewhere right before she comes in and right when Xavier Griffin's doing it, we're going live. So I might be at another hotel. It's like, where in the world is Luke San Diego around here? But anyway, all right, we will talk to you guys. And until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.